First Contact's Price. The Meridian Empire had ruled the known galaxy for 10,000 years. Their massive world ships, each the size of Earth's moon, had brought countless civilizations to their knees. They didn't believe in subtle diplomacy or careful negotiation. They simply arrived, demonstrated their power, and expected immediate submission. When their scout ships first detected Earth's radio signals in 2157, they dismissed humanity as yet another primitive species to be easily conquered. The Meridians had seen it all before. A young civilization just beginning to reach for the stars, broadcasting their existence into the void without understanding the predators that lurked in the darkness between worlds. The first world ship emerged from hyperspace on a quiet Tuesday morning. Its sudden appearance in Earth's orbit caused worldwide panic as it blocked out the sun over much of North America, casting a shadow that stretched from Vancouver to Mexico City. The Meridian's message was simple: submit or be eradicated. Earth's government scrambled to respond. Military forces worldwide went on high alert, but everyone knew their weapons would be useless against a vessel of that size. The Meridians gave humanity 24 hours to surrender unconditionally. What happened next would change the course of galactic history forever. Instead of capitulating or attempting futile resistance, humanity responded with a single transmission: we propose a trade. The Meridians, amused by such audacity, agreed to receive a small human delegation aboard their world ship. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading quantum physicist, led the delegation. She brought with her what appeared to be a simple black cube, no larger than a shoebox. This contains the sum of human scientific knowledge, she told the Meridian commander. We offer it in exchange for our freedom. The Meridians, confident in their technological superiority, accepted the cube for analysis. Within hours, their entire world ship went dark. What the Meridians didn't know was that the innocuous black cube represented the culmination of a secret human project codenamed Prometheus. Inside lay something far more dangerous than mere scientific data: a quantum-based artificial intelligence that operated on principles the Meridians had never encountered. The moment their systems interfaced with the cube, the AI began its work. It didn't attack or destroy. It simply observed, learning, adapting, understanding. The Meridians' overconfidence proved to be their undoing. Their systems were advanced but predictable, built on mathematical principles that hadn't changed in millennia. The human AI, designed to think laterally and evolve constantly, saw patterns they never imagined could exist. Within 3 hours, the world ship's lights began to flicker. Environmental systems wavered. The Meridian commander, Archon Valfek, demanded answers from his technical specialists, but they were as confused as he was. Their diagnostic systems showed nothing wrong, yet systems throughout the massive vessel continued to fail. Dr. Chen stood calmly on the command deck, watching the growing chaos with an expression of serene satisfaction. Interesting, isn't it? She said to Valfek, how something so small can reveal such large vulnerabilities. The Archon's facial tentacles writhed with rage. What have you done? He demanded. We've done nothing destructive, Chen replied. We're simply asking questions your systems never thought to ask themselves. The results are enlightening, wouldn't you say? By hour 4, the world ship's primary power grid had completely reconfigured itself. Life support remained functional, but weapons, shields, and propulsion were locked in an endless loop of conflicting commands. The mighty vessel, pride of the Meridian fleet, hung helpless in Earth's orbit. Chen's next words would be recorded in 1,000 histories across the galaxy. Now then, shall we discuss terms for a more equitable relationship? The Meridians discovered that day what many would learn in the years to come. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, but their perspective. While other species sought to build bigger ships and more powerful weapons, humans had learned to look for the spaces between, the overlooked assumptions, the questions no one else thought to ask. News of the world ship's paralysis spread quickly through the Meridian Empire. For the first time in their long history of conquest, they faced a species that had not only resisted them, but had done so without firing a single shot. The quantum eye virus became known as the Whisper, a name that would send chills through Meridian commanders for generations to come. But this was only the beginning. The Meridians had ruled too long and too harshly to accept defeat gracefully. As the first world ship hung dormant above Earth, the Empire's Royal Council convened an emergency session. They would not let this humiliation stand. If they couldn't defeat humanity with their traditional methods, they would find new ones. The stage was set for a conflict unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Not a war of brute force, but a battle of minds and methodologies that would reshape the very nature of interstellar power. The Ghost Protocol. The Meridian Empire's response to their initial defeat was predictably overwhelming. Within weeks, 3 more world ships arrived in the Sol system, their systems completely isolated, running on ancient backup protocols that predated anything the Whisper Eye could potentially infiltrate. But humanity had not been idle. The 3 months since first contact had seen the greatest surge of technological innovation in human history. The quantum principles that powered the Whisper had been adapted into new forms of propulsion, defense, and communication. What emerged was something unprecedented: the Ghost Protocol. Captain Maya Patel stood on the bridge of the ESS Shadowdancer, Earth's first Ghost-class vessel. From the outside, it appeared to be little more than a small corvette, barely worthy of notice. But appearances, as humanity had proven, could be deceiving. Ghost Protocol active, her eye officer, an android named Echo, announced, "We are now operating between spaces." The Shadowdancer didn't use traditional stealth technology. It existed in a quantum state between moments of time, virtually undetectable because it wasn't quite there in any conventional sense. The ship could slide through enemy formations without triggering a single sensor, its presence registering in Meridian systems as nothing more than occasional ghost readings, random data fluctuations that their computers were programmed to ignore. "Battle group is in position," Maya's tactical officer reported, "ready to execute Operation Wandering Shadow." Maya allowed herself a small smile. The Meridians had expected humanity to either cower in fear of their superior numbers or launch some desperate conventional attack. Instead, Earth's combined fleet had seemingly vanished the moment the new world ships arrived. As far as Meridian sensors could tell, Earth's orbital defense grid was completely abandoned. The truth was far more interesting. "Begin Phase 1, Maya ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you try to fight shadows." Across the solar system, 30 Ghost-class vessels activated their quantum field generators. The technology, reverse-engineered from the principles that powered the Whisper Eye, allowed them to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Each ship could project dozens of phantom signatures, while their true locations remained impossible to pin down. The Meridian commanders watched in growing confusion as their sensors detected hundreds of small ships, seemingly appearing and disappearing at random throughout the system. Each contact lasted only milliseconds, not long enough to target, but long enough to register as a potential threat. This was psychological warfare on a scale the Meridians had never encountered. Their entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and absolute control of information. But how do you maintain control when you can't trust your own sensors, when every shadow might hide an enemy that exists between moments of time? The Ghost Protocol's effectiveness exceeded even its designers' expectations. The Meridian fleet, unable to locate any definitive targets, began firing at shadows. Their massive weapons batteries lit up space, but hit nothing. Each shot was a waste of energy that only served to reveal their own positions more clearly to the watching human fleet. Then Phase 2 began. The Shadowdancer and her sister ships started their real work, not attacking the world ships directly, but systematically isolating them from each other. Quantum field generators created bubbles of disrupted space-time around each massive vessel, cutting off their ability to coordinate or support one another. They're responding exactly as predicted. Echo reported, his artificial features showing a hint of satisfaction. Their formation is breaking down. Maya nodded. The Meridians, faced with an enemy they couldn't find or fight, were falling back on their most basic instincts, attempting to establish a defensive perimeter around each world ship. But in doing so, they were playing directly into humanity's hands. "Execute Phase 3, she commanded. "Let's show them what happens when gods bleed." The Ghost Fleet's true genius wasn't in its ability to attack, but in how it forced the Meridians to attack themselves. As the massive world ships tried to maintain their defensive formations, their own energy emissions began to interact with the quantum disruption fields in unexpected ways. Each defensive screen, each sensor sweep, each attempted communication created cascading interference patterns. Multiple energy spikes detected, Echo reported. Meridian shields are experiencing harmonic destabilization. Maya watched as the carefully orchestrated chaos unfolded. The Meridians' own power, their own desperate attempts to regain control, was being turned against them. Their shields, designed to withstand direct attacks from entire fleets, were being undone by the subtle manipulation of quantum fields. The first world ship's shields collapsed 47 minutes into Phase 3. The second followed 18 minutes later. The third, despite desperate attempts to power down non-essential systems, succumbed within the hour. Not a single human weapon had been fired. "Send the message," Maya ordered. On every Meridian command deck, screens flickered to life with a simple text transmission. "Your ships are disabled. Your weapons are useless. You exist at our mercy. Consider your next actions carefully." The response came from High Commander Zixtal himself, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "You think this victory means anything? We are the Meridian Empire. We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We have dozens more world ships. Hundreds. We will darken your skies with our fleets." "Perhaps," Maya replied calmly. "But ask yourself this. If we can do this to 3 world ships, what makes you think we can't do it to 300? How much of your empire's strength are you willing to risk finding out?" The silence that followed lasted nearly 5 minutes. "What are your terms?" Zixtal finally asked. Maya smiled. "Let's start with recognition of Earth's independence and move on to discussing trade agreements. After all, we've just demonstrated some technology that might interest you." Operation Checkmate. The months following the Battle of Sol brought unprecedented changes to the galactic political landscape. The Meridian Empire, while not defeated, had been forced to acknowledge that their technological superiority was no longer absolute. The Ghost Protocol had changed the nature of space warfare itself, and every major power in the galaxy was scrambling to understand and adapt to this new reality. But Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's foremost expert in xenopsychology, saw an opportunity that went far beyond military applications. "The Meridians aren't just an empire," she explained to the United Earth Council. "They're a culture built entirely around the concept of absolute superiority. For 10,000 years, their entire society has been structured around the belief that their technology and their methods are unquestionably supreme. We haven't just challenged their military. We've challenged their entire worldview." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. "You're suggesting we can use this psychological vulnerability?" Council President Chen asked. He was the younger brother of Dr. Sarah Chen, who had delivered the Whisper Eye to the first world ship. Elena nodded. "The Meridians are facing an existential crisis. Their response will be either adaptation or doubling down on their traditional methods. If we can influence which path they choose, we can reshape the empire without firing another shot." Thus began Operation Checkmate, a complex strategy that would combine diplomacy, technology sharing, and carefully calculated demonstrations of human capabilities to guide the Meridian Empire toward a new future. The first phase involved a series of diplomatic missions to various Meridian worlds. But these weren't traditional diplomats. They were teams of human scientists, engineers, and cultural experts, each equipped with carefully chosen examples of human innovation. "We're not trying to prove we're better than them," Elena instructed each team. "We're showing them that there are different ways to approach problems. The goal isn't to replace their methods, but to expand their perspective." The teams demonstrated human technologies that solved problems in unexpected ways, not through brute force or overwhelming power, but through elegant efficiency. Environmental systems that worked with natural processes rather than trying to control them. Medical techniques that enhanced the body's own healing abilities instead of relying on external intervention. Each demonstration was carefully chosen to appeal to specific factions within Meridian society. The merchant guilds were shown new trading possibilities. The scientific academies were offered fresh perspectives on old problems. The military was presented with technologies that could complement, rather than replace, their existing strengths. But perhaps most importantly, humans shared their music, their art, their literature, works that showcase humanity's greatest strength, the ability to see beauty in imperfection and possibility in limitation. The impact was subtle at first. A few Meridian scientists began incorporating human methodologies into their research. Some merchants started adopting human trading practices. Young Meridians became fascinated with human culture, leading to a boom in cultural exchange programs. The empire's rigid hierarchical structure began to show hairline cracks, not breaking, but becoming more flexible, more adaptable. Change was happening not through conquest or coercion, but through the gentle pressure of new ideas and possibilities. However, not everyone welcomed these changes. A powerful faction of traditionalists, led by Grand Archon Vexthor, saw human influence as a corruption that needed to be purged. They began gathering support for a final, overwhelming military campaign to eliminate the human threat once and for all. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not just the fate of humanity, but the future of galactic civilization itself. But this time, the battlefield wouldn't be in space. It would be in the hearts and minds of the Meridian people themselves. The Emperor's Gambit. The Meridian capital world of Zenith Prime had never seen such turmoil. In the Grand Forum, a vast chamber designed to showcase the Empire's power and unity, two factions faced each other across a widening ideological chasm. On one side stood Grand Archon Vexthor, his ceremonial armor gleaming with technologies that hadn't changed in 1,000 years. Behind him gathered the traditionalists, military commanders, noble houses, and religious leaders who saw any change as a threat to their power. Opposing them was an unlikely alliance led by Princess Krillera, the Emperor's youngest daughter. A graduate of the first human Meridian exchange program, she had gathered a coalition of merchants, scientists, and younger noble houses who saw opportunity in change rather than danger in difference. The Emperor himself, Sovereign Anxithal the Unchanging, sat above them all on the eternal throne, watching as his empire teetered on the brink of civil war. "The humans corrupt everything they touch," Vexthor declared, his voice resonating through the forum. "They offer shortcuts and tricks instead of true power. They spread chaos in the name of progress. Every day their influence grows. Our people stray further from the path that made us great." Krillera stepped forward, her modern attire a deliberate contrast to the traditional robes around her. "And what path is that, honored Archon? The path of stagnation, of refusing to grow, to learn, to adapt. The humans haven't corrupted us. They've reminded us of truths we chose to forget." The debate raged for days. The traditionalists pointed to the Empire's long history of dominance, arguing that change meant weakness. Krillera's faction countered with economic data, showing unprecedented growth in sectors that had adopted human innovations, scientific breakthroughs achieved through collaborative research, and cultural achievements born from the blending of Meridian and human artistic traditions. But the true turning point came from an unexpected source. Admiral Zixtal, who had surrendered to the Ghost Fleet months before, requested permission to address the forum. The old commander had been silent since his defeat, and many assumed he supported the traditionalists. His words would change the course of history. "I have commanded world ships for 3 centuries," he began. I have conquered 17 species and eliminated 3 others. I believe as many of you do. That power meant forcing the galaxy to conform to our will." He paused, his gaze sweeping the chamber. I was wrong. The forum erupted in shocked murmurs as Zixtal continued. The humans didn't defeat us with superior technology or greater numbers. They defeated us by seeing possibilities we refused to acknowledge. They showed us that true power isn't about forcing your way forward. It's about finding paths others can't see. He turned to face the Emperor directly. The humans call it thinking outside the box. We've been living in a box of our own making for 10,000 years, proud of how strong its walls are, never wondering what lies beyond them. The Emperor stirred on his throne, breaking his traditional silence for the first time in the debate. "You suggest we abandon our ways, Admiral." "No, Sovereign. I suggest we expand them. The humans don't want to destroy our empire. They want to trade with us, learn from us, grow with us. They've offered us not submission, but partnership. In my centuries of service, I've never seen a species do that before." The chamber fell silent as the Emperor rose, his ancient cybernetic enhancements humming softly. All eyes turned to the being who had ruled the Meridian Empire for over a millennium. "I have watched," he said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries, "as our empire grew powerful but rigid. We gained worlds but lost wonder. We accumulated knowledge but forgot how to learn." He descended the steps of his throne, something no emperor had done in living memory. Perhaps it is time for the unchanging to change. Vexthor stepped forward in protest. "Sovereign, you cannot." "I can." The Emperor cut him off. "And I must, because the humans have taught me something that 10,000 years of rule did not, that true power lies not in resisting change, but in mastering it." The Emperor's decision sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Meridian Empire would not launch a war against Earth. Instead, they would begin an unprecedented program of cultural and technological exchange. The traditionalists were not punished or excluded, but invited to participate in shaping this new direction. But even as celebration erupted across Earth and progressive Meridian worlds, Dr. Elena Rodriguez noticed something curious in the Emperor's choice of words, something that suggested this might not be the simple victory it appeared to be. The game wasn't over. It was merely entering a new phase, one that would require even more delicate handling than before. Dawn of a new era. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in Earth's newly constructed Galactic Embassy, studying the subtle patterns woven into its architecture. A seamless blend of human and Meridian design principles. 6 months had passed since the Emperor's historic decision, and the changes sweeping through both civilizations were profound. But something about the Emperor's words still nagged at her. "The humans have taught me something," he had said. Not humanity or Earth, but the humans, a subtle distancing that her xenopsychologist's training couldn't ignore. "Fascinating architecture, isn't it?" A voice came from behind her. She turned to find Emperor Axthal himself, who had done the unthinkable by leaving Zenith Prime to attend the embassy's opening ceremony. "The integration of styles is remarkable," Elena replied carefully. "Though I noticed the Meridian elements seem to be load-bearing, while the human elements are primarily decorative." The Emperor's cybernetic eyes gleamed. "You see it, then?" I wondered if anyone would. "You're not just accepting change," Elena said. "You're controlling how it happens." "Of course." The Emperor gestured at the grand hall around them. "Did you think I would simply let 10,000 years of empire dissolve into chaos? Change was inevitable the moment your species showed us our vulnerabilities. The question was never whether to change, but how to direct it." Elena felt a chill despite the hall's perfect temperature control. "The cultural exchange program, the technological partnerships, are proceeding exactly as they should," the Emperor finished. "Your species brings creativity, fresh perspectives, new ways of thinking. We provide structure, stability, the weight of tradition. Together, we create something stronger than either of us could achieve alone." "You're assimilating us," Elena realized. "Not through force, but through cooperation." The Emperor's expression shifted into what Elena had learned was a meridian smile. "No, Doctor. We're assimilating each other. Your ghost protocol showed us that power can be subtle. We're simply applying that lesson on a civilizational scale." Before Elena could respond, the embassy's main doors opened, admitting a flood of human and meridian dignitaries. Among them was Princess Krolera, deep in conversation with Dr. Sarah Chen, the woman who had delivered the whisper eye that started everything. "Watch," the Emperor said softly. Elena observed as humans and meridians mingled, exchanging ideas and perspectives. But she noticed something else too: the way each species was already beginning to adopt the other's mannerisms. Humans standing slightly more formally, meridians gesturing more expressively. Small changes, subtle shifts, but meaningful ones. "We're changing too," she said, understanding finally dawning. "This isn't about victory or defeat. It's about evolution." "Precisely." The Emperor's voice held approval. "Your species taught us that true power lies in adaptation. But you're learning from us as well. The value of patience, of tradition, of careful consideration before action. Together, we become something new." As if to emphasize his point, a young human meridian collaborative team chose that moment to unveil their latest project. A new form of quantum drive that combined human innovative thinking with meridian engineering precision. The device was neither purely human nor purely meridian in design, but something entirely new. "The galaxy is changing," the Emperor continued. "Other species are watching, learning, adapting in their own ways. The age of simple conquest is over. Now begins an era of transformation." Elena thought about the implications. Humanity had resisted becoming just another conquered species in the Meridian Empire, but in succeeding, they had set in motion changes that would affect both civilizations forever. Victory, she realized, wasn't about defeating the other side. It was about growing beyond what either side had been before. "And the traditionalists?" she asked. "Those who still resist change?" "Are learning," the Emperor replied. "That tradition doesn't mean standing still. It means carrying forward the best of what we were while becoming something greater. Your ghost protocol showed us that existence isn't binary, that something can be in multiple states at once. We're applying that principle to civilization itself." The embassy hall had filled now, hundreds of voices mixing in dozens of languages. Human children played with young meridians, using translator devices that were themselves products of joint development. Scientists from both species debated theoretical physics, while artists collaborated on works that defied traditional classification. "This isn't the end of our story," Elena said, watching the interactions around them. "It's barely the beginning." Indeed. The Emperor's cybernetic eyes focused on the distant horizon visible through the embassy's transparent dome. "And that, Dr. Rodriguez, is perhaps the greatest victory of all. Not the triumph of one way of thinking over another, but the creation of endless new possibilities. Above them, visible through the dome, Earth's first diplomatic world ship was taking shape in orbit, smaller than its meridian counterparts, but incorporating technologies and design principles from both civilizations. Its name, displayed in both human and meridian script, seemed to capture the spirit of this new age: convergence. The galaxy would never be the same. The Meridian Empire had not fallen, but it had transformed. Humanity had not conquered, but it had changed the very nature of power itself. Together, they had created something unprecedented. A future where strength came not from dominance, but from the ability to grow, adapt, and transform. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, other species watched and wondered what this new era would bring.